a Brides of the Kindred novel by Evangeline Anderson. Narrated by Oliver Clark, Vincent Skye, and Marcella Black. Chapter 1. Celia.
Cece, dear, how is that turkey coming on? Please, don't forget to baste it. Nobody likes a dry turkey. And don't forget to glaze the ham.
Celia Alvarez counted silently to 10 and fixed a smile on her face before turning to look at her mother-in-law-to-be.
The turkey is doing just fine, Mother Frances, she said brightly. But you can check it yourself if you'd like to be sure. Or you could peel the potatoes while I check it instead. Or make the cranberry sauce. Or start on the pie crust. Or the green bean casserole. Or... Oh, no. I'm sure you've got everything in hand, Cece. I wouldn't want to interrupt your flow, her mother-in-law-to-be said, waving a hand to dismiss Celia's indirect plea for help. Celia gritted her teeth. It was her mother-in-law-to-be, Mother Frances, as she had asked Celia call her, that had insisted on this enormous Thanksgiving spread in the first place. She wanted to have the entire family over to talk about the wedding, which was happening in just over a month on Christmas Eve. But though there were no less than 25 people talking and laughing and mingling in the large mansion on Bayshore Boulevard, which was her fiancé Peter's current main residence, not a single one of them had offered to help in any way. It was probably because they'd all been raised rich, Celia speculated to herself, as she began on the gourmet cranberry relish that Mother Frances insisted on, since canned cranberry sauce wasn't good enough. Peter came from the upper crust, high society and generational wealth that had been passed down since the days of the robber barons. His great-great-grandfather had owned a bunch of railroads or something like that, though now his family was more into aeronautics and shipping. Such people usually had a private chef and a horde of servants to take care of them. But Peter had just bought the mansion on Bayshore a few months before and hadn't gotten around to hiring staff for it yet. So it was up to Celia to prepare this enormous meal all by herself. People wandered in from time to time to help themselves to more wine and cheese from the charcuterie board that Celia had set up on the kitchen island, but none of them said, "Hey, you look busy. Is there anything I can do to help?" Mostly, they just ignored her, except for Mother, or supervise, as she called it, and tell Celia what she was doing wrong. "Have you started the dough for the yeast rolls yet?" her future mother-in-law asked, raising one critical and perfectly plucked blonde eyebrow. She was wearing an immaculate white silk lounging suit, which made her look both elegant and unapproachable. "It has to rise at least twice to be any good. That's what my chef Armand told me anyway when I got the recipe from him." Dios. Celia wished that Armand was there now instead of back at Mother Frances's penthouse in New York. Maybe he would actually be some help instead of just standing there criticizing without lifting a finger. "It's on its second rise right now," she told her future mother-in-law. "I'll work with it some more when I get a chance, but right now, I've really got my hands full." "Oh, of course you do, and we all can't wait to see what you produce. I'm sure it will be so interesting," Mother Frances exclaimed, which was her version of a compliment. "By the way, dear, I got you a job," she added, smiling at Celia. "You did?" Celia swallowed her resentment and looked up hopefully. "Yes, my dear friend Penelope Penobscot of the Boston Penobscots. She just bought a second condo in Palm Beach, and she needs someone to decorate for her. So of course I thought of you right away." Celia's heart jumped in her chest. This kind of client was what her little interior design firm, Elegant Interiors, needed to really start taking off. "Well, thank you, Mother Frances," she said, giving her future mother-in-law a genuine smile. "If you'll give me her email address, I'll send her a contract and a list of prices." "Oh, no, no, no." Mother Frances put a fluttering hand to the pearls at her throat, as though Celia had suggested some kind of sacrilege. "No, Penelope is a dear friend. You can't charge her anything." "But I'm running a business," Celia protested. "I can't afford to just give away my work for free."
"Give what away for free?"
Peter, her fiancé, asked, coming into the vast kitchen. He was wearing a casual outfit, an Egyptian linen shirt with the cuffs rolled up, a pair of hand-tailored slacks, and Italian driving loafers that cost more than the car Celia was currently driving. He was only about an inch taller than her, but the loafers had built-up heels that turned his. He plucked a grape from the fruit salad Celia had begun assembling and popped it into his mouth before coming up to give her a quick kiss on the cheek. "Your mother was kind enough to find me a client," Celia began. "Yes, Penelope Penobscot. You remember her, darling, don't you?" Mother Frances cut in. "Of the Boston Penobscots? But Cece here wants to charge her to decorate her condo." Peter frowned and raked a hand through his thinning blonde hair.
"Cece, darling, really? You know you can't charge a friend, especially one of Mummy's dear friends. Why always this obsession with money?"
"Dios, because I don't have any," Celia wanted to shout. "Because I didn't grow up obscenely wealthy like you and your snobby family." But she held her tongue, as she always did. She didn't want to drive a wedge between Peter and his mother. She'd already heard them fighting over the fact that he was marrying the help on at least one occasion. Now that Mother Frances was finally beginning to accept her, and the fact that she and Peter were actually getting married, Celia didn't want to ruin it.
"I know you grew up in a, disadvantaged situation,"
Peter went on, not waiting for Celia to answer.
"But you won't ever have to worry about money again once we get married."
"Can you believe the wedding is just over a month from now?
An elegant Christmas Eve wedding. It's going to be just perfect."
"I'm excited about the wedding, too," Celia began. "But the point is—"
"The point is to be happy together on this wonderful day,"
Peter interrupted smoothly.
"I mean, food, fun, and family. What more could one ask for?"
He looked at the bag of marshmallows that Celia had out for the candied yams and shook his head.
"But speaking of food, darling, I really hope you're not eating any of those. You know how sweets go straight to your hips. You want to fit into that gorgeous wedding dress we picked out, right?"
"They're for the candied yams. I haven't touched them," Celia said quickly, her cheeks getting hot. All of Peter's family seemed to be naturally skinny. His sisters didn't ever have to exercise, and they all had the anatomy of toothpicks. Even her mother-in-law-to-be was thinner than she was, though she'd been dieting for months. Unfortunately, Celia wasn't sure that would ever change. She had always been big in the hips and ass department. It was probably part of her heritage, though she couldn't be sure since she'd been raised in the foster care system. "Now, speaking of the wedding, I really have to go over the guest list with you again, sweetums," Mother Frances said, hooking her arm through her son's. "I've had to add a few more people to fill out the church, since there's almost no one on the bride's side." And she towed him into the other room, still talking rapidly. Madre de Dios. Celia watched them go, and then turned back to the task at hand with a sigh. She was peeling potatoes in the sink, and she looked out the window at the cars whizzing by on the winding road some distance away. Bayshore Boulevard was a long, curving road which boasted the longest unbroken stretch of sidewalk in the U.S. It was featured in all kinds of articles and Instagram posts about moving to Tampa, though these same articles neglected to mention that it was hot, humid, and sticky. 3/4 of the year.